Hey everybody, welcome back to Sounds Like a Drum, Cadence independent media production. And today we are experimenting with pitches in tom tuning in a larger kit with this beautiful kit from Welch Tuning Systems. First things first, I pretty much always play a two-tom setup, sometimes a second floor tom, just, if it happens to be available on a backline kit or something like that. Two up, two down, I haven't done in a really, really long time, so I was extra excited to get over here and work on this. These drums are from Welch Tuning Systems, which, as you can see, has a unorthodox and super interesting kind of modern take on the rope tensioning tuning system. And we had these here because they were kind enough to sponsor this video, and also because they're going to facilitate what we're going to do today, which is go very quickly through a bunch of different intervallic systems on a multi-tom setup and just sort of see what different things we can get to. We're dealing with a 10, a 12, a 14, and a 16. And so we have the same basic diameter difference between each of the drums. That can lead us to think that the intervals between the drums should all be the same, or that maybe the depth makes things different, or the fact that they're on the floor might make things different. For me, it's just about whether or not the sound is working with the music that I'm making and whether or not it makes me happy to hit them. I did discover today, for instance, that when I went to sort of do my normal tuning, it ended up being one of the sort of tuning preset ideas that we were planning to do, which we're going to start with right now. So these sound nice, they sound melodic, they sound very musical to me. The intervals feel musical, and I'm inspired to play things that feel like melodies to me with this particular lineup. Now, I tuned them up without really thinking about them being particular pitches or being particular intervals. I just sounded right when I played them. And it turned out that they were a very specific set of intervals, which I started doing a long time ago just as an experiment. Basically, the one time that I tuned to sort of like a chord or tuned to a song was when I found out that Danny Carey from Tool had a specific tuning that he was using, which is, if you're versed in this stuff, it's a minor arpeggio, or what that constitutes is the notes that make a D minor chord, which a lot of their music is basically built around. So that in his case meant that he had a D, an F, and an A, and then another A in the second floor tom, so there's an A below the root note, which is the D of our D chord. Today, when I tuned these up, it ended up being an F minor chord, F, A flat, C, and a C below. These are rough, we used a guitar tuner to kind of see the ballpark, note that's presenting when we strike them. We're not getting into any kind of pitch relationships between the heads or anything like that, because these are single tension drums. So whatever you do to one head, you're doing to the other. So we're basically having the same tension on both of the heads all the time in order to make the note that we're hearing. All right, let's listen to this scheme a little bit more now that we've talked about what it's made of, and just kind of see how it makes sense to play melodies with it, because it is the notes of a chord that you might hear on a piano or a guitar or some other melodic instrument. All right, let's move on to tuning number 2. We're going to go a little further afield with this next one. Now the plan with this one, again, was not to go after specific intervals, but to just go for something really wide. So I wanted the low end lower, I wanted the high end higher, and then I wanted the middle two to still be in between those. And what we ended up with was E flat, B flat, E flat, B flat. So basically 2 octaves, like that. And this is kind of fun because if you've ever played guitar or if you've ever checked out the way that a lot of rock guitar is constructed, you have these things called power chords. It's not important what they are, but we basically have power chord shapes in our toms here, which means that they sound very good and very consonant in pairs. These two sound good, these two sound good, and these two sound good. This is a much wider interval span from the lowest to the highest compared to the previous one, and also it doesn't really make a sort of tonal center the way that the other tuning does, where it sounds like this floor tom is home and the rest of the toms kind of branch out from there. These all feel much further apart. This can lead to different ideas. It might stand out in the mix more. It might be less dissonant with other parts of the track that you're working on. This was sort of a guessing game to just see how far apart I could get them and still have the drums ring and not choke out or flap out on the other end. And it worked out pretty good. This also brings to mind a favorite drummer of mine, Billy Ward, who I recall in an interview talking about things that he would do in multi-tom setups versus like a 2-tom setup, where if he's got 2, like a rack and a floor and a snare, the snare is the highest voice. But if he's got 4 toms, the 10-inch tom might be higher than the snare, just to reorder things a little bit and send you in a different direction when you're trying to be melodic with the kit. Let's hear a little more of this setup now. Right, now the final of the 3 that actually was just pure curiosity from me was something that I've read in a bunch of interviews with R&B and gospel players, where they were into the idea of super high-tuned rack toms, or well, relatively high-tuned rack toms for clarity when they're playing really fast patterns on the higher toms, and then a big drop to the floor tom or floor toms, so that you almost have sort of 2 sub-families. You have really bright stuff up here and really low, dark, punchy stuff down below. And this is really cool for if you want to play articulate, fast ideas where the melodic part of it is projected, but then you want to have power when you move to the larger drums. It's almost like more bass drums or more of a rumble kind of vibe. Okay, so now we have a little bit less of like the power chord vibe, and also our octaves are moved a little bit differently than they were before. And basically what I did was I bumped up the second rack tom so that there's a bigger differential between the 12 and the 14. And I also raised up the 16 to a little bit closer to the 14 so that these two feel closer together and these two feel closer together, but the difference between these is a little bit wider. Now, in terms of the notes, we maintained E flats here and here from before, but we moved these up from B flat to D flat. So these two are now closer and these two are now closer, but there's a bigger jump from the 14 to the 12. If you are not used to playing a multi-tom setup and you sit down at one to jam out, I find myself stumbling over my own hands with this many things to hit and going in all these different directions, both because I'm not used to so many different surfaces to choose from, and also because I'm hearing things in my head that I want to play that I'm frankly not used to. So when you're getting into a new setup, it's a really great opportunity to discover directions that you're not used to moving or places that you're not used to moving your stick toward. If these two were over the bass drum, you know, I'm used to having my ride cymbal right there. So it can change your whole perspective on things and make you find not only things that are challenging for you, but also new creative ideas, which is super exciting. So as you can see, there's a lot of ways to tune your toms, intervallically speaking. And the more toms you have, the more options you have. And it is just goes right in with our general feeling about this stuff, that there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's about what works for you, what inspires you, and what fits into the music that you're making. It was particularly nice to have the Welch Tuning Systems drums here so that we could do these intervals super duper quickly and experiment with things a little bit to make sure that we got them exactly where we wanted them. Really, really fun, and we really appreciate them sponsoring this video. It's been a blast to work with these instruments. By the way, if you haven't yet, or if you already have and want to do it again, please follow the link below over to our Patreon account, where there will be a bunch of extra content from this video, some different kind of performance stuff, some other sort of conversations and things about intervallic tuning, the pitfalls and the possibilities of those kinds of things. And it's a beautiful way, the main way, that you can help us continue to do what we're doing here, which we desperately want to do, and we're really excited to get back to it. It's really kind of the center of our creativity right now. All right, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification button below so that you hear about our new videos. Please let us know if you have any specific intervallic things that you like to do with your drums, or if you've ever run into any difficulties in recording dissonances or anything that was just like an anecdote, because we're always fascinated to hear what everybody's doing.